Okay, folks, moving on. So today, you got my message that you're gonna skip one chapter 36, and we're gonna move straight to chapter 37 in your book, which deals with one specific form of business speculation. So that's the main problem: is speculation within the context of. Let me adjust this. Within the context of futures markets. So these two concepts are key for today. Speculation in general and speculation in the futures markets in particular. So I'll start by reminding you of something we've already discussed at more than one occasion, but I warned you repeatedly that some of the most important economic lessons are counterintuitive, which means that they go against what we expect to be true, that they go against common sense to a certain degree as well, that they go against what normal people, with or without quotation marks, believe about economics and economy, and what even very well educated and intelligent people who are not versed in economic theory believe. And I gave you plenty of examples of this counterintuitive character of economic science. Minimum wages. Everybody, every nice person believes that minimum wages should be imposed. In economic analysis shows that minimum wage hikes have some counterproductive effects that work directly against the people whom they are expected to help. Rent controls are enacted with the goal in mind of helping poor people. They end up subsidizing the wealthy and punishing poor people. Price ceilings of any kind, tariffs, all of them have some consequences that are largely ignored by the general public, and only a very narrow subset of effects of these policies are appreciated. And the reason why many of these harmful or problematic economic policies enjoy broad public support is that people usually concentrate on the effects of economic policies or economic principles that are immediately visible and observable. People tend to treat things that are visible, tangible, observable, empirically ascertainable to be somehow more real than speculative counterfactual effects. So one example of that would be, yes, rent controls help poor people because they have to pay lower rents. And people tend to support this and to believe that this is a useful policy because they can see the beneficiaries of that. A poor person who rents an apartment at $700 rather than $900 is a visible, empirically attestable beneficiary of that. Tariffs. Why are tariffs supported? Because it's very easy to see who benefits tariffs. It happens quickly. The gains are substantial. Domestic firms and people who are employed by domestic firms, they benefit. CNN, Fox News, everybody can interview them. You know these people, you see them. Now, what is the problem with all of this? That there are costs which are not so directly visible, that are typically postponed in time. It takes a longer period of time to see negative effects of these policies. And they're spread over a longer period of time and over a larger number of people. So tariffs, steel tariffs, Trump administration imposed steel tariffs. Benefits, so-called benefits, are visible right away. Domestic steel companies benefit. And they applaud the government and say, wow, that's a great thing that you did. And the media applauds that and said, okay, yeah, see, protecting domestic jobs. What is not visible is that the steel prices increase. They are built into the costs of everything else that uses steel for production. Real estate, cars, tanks, tractors, everything. The prices of everything that uses steel as a significant component go up. But guess what? Those prices do not increase so dramatically. They increase a little bit, 1%, 2%. So the losers, people who suffer as a consequence of higher tariff rates, do not suffer so dramatically. So somebody calculated actually that the average price of cars, the price of an average car in America increased by about $150 to $200 per car as a consequence of steel tariffs. Which is not good, but it's not the end of the world. Nobody would you buy a car which is $25,000 forever, 5 years, it's not such a big deal. It's not a deal breaker for any one individual car user. So people are far less likely to perceive the costs of this because the costs are postponed in time and relatively small. So that makes it much easier for people to ignore the negative effects of certain governmental measures, certain economic policies, and to support harmful policies. Because there is this very unfortunate mismatch, this very unfortunate information asymmetry, if you will, between the effects of harmful policies and the costs of harmful policies. Benefits of harmful policies are visible and sizable. Costs are spread smaller at an individual level. And what is more important, what is the most important, speculative. Speculative means something that is not directly observable, something that you cannot prove by pointing to anything in reality ahead of time. You say, don't impose the tariff. Why? Because you're going to create higher prices of steel. The higher prices of steel will then be translated into higher prices of this or that, and eventually people believe me, my theoretical principles show that people will be suffering, that the costs will be greater than the benefits. So, what is that? What kind of, that's philosophy. That's not serious science. So that's a problem with economics, with accepting certain principles of economic science, that some of the deepest truths about economics are speculative, essentially. Or we can formulate it differently. They're hypothetical truths. They do not refer to anything that you can observe right now, any directly observable empirical reality. And since people tend to discount realities that are not empirically observable, because we are common sense beings, Homo sapiens is common sense, you believe that what you can touch or smell or see or hear is somehow more real. That's something that you, based on theoretical reasoning, accept should be the case. That's somehow less real. That's the way how we approach the world. And economics has this unfortunate characteristic that some of the deepest points and principles of economics are of this speculative theoretical kind. Okay, so that's a kind of review of this basic problem of economics that we faced from the very beginning. It just keeps reappearing. Whenever you scratch the surface of any economic policy, you see the same mismatch, the same problem, the same difficulty in convincing ordinary people in the economic truths. Maybe the most canonical victims of this propensity of human nature to see only empirical evidence as evidence is speculation. So what is the view that most people have about business speculation?
They're greedy.
Greedy. What else? What is the like a moral assessment of speculators, and why is that assessment what it is? Exploitation. They're bad. They're bad people. And what they do?
take advantage of?
Take advantage of people, that's one thing. Destabilize the markets. They're buying and selling not because they need good, but because they want to earn some money. They destabilize markets. Take advantage of people, destabilize markets. Maybe the canonical example is, I think that we mentioned it, at least in passing. Price gouging. That's one of the most horrific and unpopular forms of speculation. So what is price gouging?
They're the only people that have something to charge a really high price for it.
Yeah, so taking advantage of people by charging exorbitantly high prices of some products that people really need desperately. People who are in trouble, like hurricane struck area and you sell toilet paper and water at very high prices because they're cut off from the rest of the world. They don't have any. And then you take the advantage of the situation and you charge them very high prices. That's price gouging. And what is the universal moral assessment? That's bad. And many states in this union have anti-price gouging, anti-gouging laws and regulations. Okay, so that's how ordinary people react. What economists have to say about price gouging? Why price gouging happens? Let's say Florida, a hurricane hits Florida, they're cut off temporarily from the rest of the state or from the rest of the union. There is a shortage of everything, or there is a greater demand for everything, which is the same thing in this particular case. So who are price gougers take advantage of this and they charge them higher prices. Okay, but what happens as a consequence of that?
So we'll probably try and sell it for a lower price to beat them out, I guess.
That's one consequence. But as they sell, even if they don't want to compete among themselves, supply and demand. This is the equilibrium price. This is the quantity that is being sold. Let's say that this is a very high price. That's the price gouge price. Price of water and toilet paper is higher in Florida than in other parts of the country. So they're going to be selling more. So the supply of these commodities will increase. The supply curve will shift to the right. Okay. Why will the supply shift? Because people will move resources from other places where prices are lower to Florida where prices are higher. Greedy bastards, price gougers, they don't care about anyone. They care only about their stuff in their pockets. They increase the supply of toilet paper, the price goes down. Quantity sold increases. So see, the problem here is not that the price gougers are doing or not doing something. The problem is that there is a greater scarcity of water and toilet paper in Florida vis-a-vis other states. That's the problem. And there is no choice now between people getting toilet paper at pre-hurricane prices and people getting toilet paper at post-hurricane higher prices. The choice is between having no product whatsoever and having it at higher prices. That's the choice. Price gougers provide greater supply of those goods, initially at higher prices, but the prices will have to go down eventually because the supply increases. And now you see what happens here. Additionally, where this additional supply is coming from? Short run process. You don't have time to produce new quantities. You don't have enough time. So you move from the inventories, from the stockpiles of the good in other states. So you're reducing the supply of toilet paper in North Dakota, in California, Texas, in order to increase it in Florida. Okay? In order to earn more money. What happens then to the prices in those states? Supply decreases here because you moved part of the supplies to Florida. The supply of toilet paper decreases. Price goes up. Okay? So price in California and Texas and Dakota will go up. Maybe ever so slightly, maybe not significantly, but it will go up. So you see how speculation essentially optimally redistributes the existing stock of goods to satisfy the needs of everybody involved, both people in a hurricane-stricken area and people outside, and actually stabilize the price. See, the speculation reduces the price spread between Florida and North Dakota. By moving parts of the supply from Dakota to Florida, it increases slightly the price in Dakota and reduces the price eventually in Florida. So see, it's a basic, simple demonstration of how one canonical and very much reviled form of financial speculation, economic speculation, works directly contrary to what people think about price gouging. It's price gouging essentially stabilizes the market and allows people who are in need, in dire straits, to satisfy their needs better than they would have done otherwise. So you can say, at a certain fundamental level, we can define speculation as just, in a generic sense, it's very broad sense, buying cheap, selling dear. That's what speculation is. And if you define it that way, because that's the only thing that I can see in price gouging as an economist, you're selling in a more expensive market in Florida, and you're reducing your sales in less expensive markets. And in doing so, you're equilibrating the prices, you're reducing the price spreads between the two. So buying cheap, selling dear. A lot of economic activity then could be called speculative. A large part, every kind of exchange. You always want to earn on a price spread between buying and selling. I can say that speculation is almost identical to arbitrage. Arbitrage is this: earning profit on having a better information that allows you to sell at a higher price than somebody else. So you then buy in a cheap market and sell in an expensive market. Okay, so that's one example of speculation. We can say that speculation in financial markets, speculation in commodity markets, serves to help solve two problems that economic life and that our society has to solve. How to allocate resources, scarce resources, multiple uses. Everything that has a positive price is a scarce good. Over time and space. Over space means how much to sell in Florida vis-a-vis North Dakota. Over time means how much to sell today vis-a-vis how much to sell tomorrow, or in 3 weeks, or in 6 weeks. So these questions are very important for our society. In order to economize our resources, we have to decide, we have to establish and to maintain some sustainable long-term pattern of how much we consume now vis-a-vis tomorrow, and how much people in this part of the country will be allowed to consume vis-a-vis other parts. So speculation helps solve this problem in the exact same way I described with price gouging. We're going to study today one specific form of speculation that will help us understand both of these aspects, time and space, coordination of economic activities, and that's futures markets. Markets or contracts, future contracts. Anyone knows what is a futures contract? Futures, oil futures increased 5%. What does that mean?
Stock. The stock.
Not really. Yeah, but what is the future? The price of the futures, oil futures. That's the key here. But the futures, it's not future here. It's a term, futures. S. Yeah. So that's the price at the future date. So futures contract is a contract for a future delivery of certain good. You and me make a futures contract for delivering wheat, for example. Wheat futures will be then the price of wheat payable upon delivery in 1 year. So 1 year future, 6 months future, depending on the time duration. Then the futures contract is a contract between the two parties, whereby one of them takes the obligation to deliver a good in a certain period of time at a future date, and the other party, who is the buyer, accepts to pay a fixed, agreed upon price at a future date. So you're a farmer, I'm a commodity speculator, I buy from you a right to get 1,000 bushels of wheat in 12 months. Let's say that's in August or July after the harvest at a price of $10 per bushel. That's a futures contract. So the futures prices are prices of goods or services at a future date. And those contracts are then could be bought and sold on the market. There's a market for the futures. I have a right, I can sell a contract to you, for example. If I don't think it will work for me, I can sell to somebody else. That's a futures contract. It's purchasing a right to get a certain good delivered to you at a future date at an agreed upon price, at a fixed price. What are the advantages of this? What is the purpose of the futures contract? There are two parties to the contract, and we assume that both parties think that they're going to benefit from the contract. Let's say Noah is the farmer, and he signs a contract to sell his annual production of wheat to me, the commodity speculator. What is his motivation here for that? What he gains by signing such a contract? And what I gain as a commodity speculator?
I probably gain like making the sale, like it's in a contract. I don't have to worry about it. And you gain getting it maybe maybe a cheaper price now than if you paid later?
Okay. Yeah, the first part I agree with completely. So the first part, he's purchasing his peace of mind. It's a kind of insurance against price fluctuations. So you can work 100% to produce wheat and don't worry about the market at all. You have a certain income that you're gonna get. You know you're gonna get, and that's all. Why is that good? Because people like predictability. So predictability is a positive economic good. You can make your life plans much easier if you have a guarantee, if the level of risk and uncertainty is dramatically reduced. So people are ready to pay for risk reduction or uncertainty reduction. And you get this risk reduction. It's free of charge in a certain sense. For me. And that's good from a societal point of view, because for society it's much better that you concentrate 100% of producing wheat. You don't have to worry to lose your time and energy and opportunity cost studying the market and worrying about at which price you're going to be selling and whether you're going to find buyers at the price that will allow you to cover your cost. From my point of view, I don't have to worry about production. I have guaranteed delivery of a certain quantity of wheat at a future date. The only thing that I worry about is the conditions of financial markets that I have to study and to understand very well. Before I make a contract with you, I will have to understand very well and to have certain, let's say, notion or concept about how markets are going in the future. What the expected price of wheat is likely to be at the future date. Now, there is a key difference here between the two concepts. The first one is the futures price. FP, that's the price that I promise to pay you on the delivery date. And the second concept is the spot price. Spot price is a price at any one given point in time. Today, tomorrow, contemporaneous price. So your business model, you get secured income. My business model, what is my business model? What I need to achieve in order to profit as a speculator in terms of these two variables here. I need a spot price in the future at the date when you deliver me the wheat to be greater than the spot price. Than the futures price. Why is that the case? What is my business model? I get the wheat from you. I pay you $10 per bushel. The next day I sell it in the secondary market to somebody for 12 bushels. For $12 per bushel. This is the spot price. July 11th. Next year. Price that I can fetch for the product on the market. This is the price that I sign a contract a year in advance to pay you on July 10th, July 11th. So then this difference, my bet, my hope is to pocket the difference, the positive difference between the spot price that I can fetch for my product and the futures price that I have to pay you contractually. If that's not the case, I'm in trouble. I can try and sell my contract to somebody else. Or I can, what else can I do? What do you think? It doesn't mean that if, let's say, spot price is $9, it doesn't mean necessarily that I'm going to lose money here. It depends on what I expect to happen in the future. So maybe if I expect in 3 months that the price will increase to $15, then I may postpone selling wheat. What is the problem with that?
Go bad.
It can go bad, but even if let's say that I know, I'm pretty much certain that the price will be $11 per bushel in 3 months. Does that mean that I should wait and postpone, that I will earn money if I wait 3 months? Not necessarily, because I have costs of stockpiling wheat, storage costs and interest costs. So depending on the relationship between the costs of storage and interest and the expected future higher price, I may decide to wait or not wait. So that's the business model of a speculator. The basic advantage of this entire scheme is the separation of risk and production. Separation of risk and production. The speculator takes risk, producer, farmer specializes in production. So that's good because we know that specialization is productive. So one of the very first lessons that we learned is that division of labor is productive. More division of labor there is, more productive the business enterprise is. Remember this needle factory story from Adam Smith, how the same people who work, the same 5 people who work producing needles can produce 100 or 1,000 times more if they specialize in discrete tasks, rather than if every one of them tries to make the entire needle. So this doesn't apply only to division of labor within the production process. We usually think of division of labor and specialization, gains from specialization within the context of dividing up the tasks within a given production process. Okay? I do this, you do that, we divide up tasks so we can be more productive. But it also applies in a more fundamental sense that sometimes we may divide up different social functions. Risk-taking and production, if they are separated, then the economic system can work more efficient. So that's the main advantage. So that's at the deepest level, actually, the efficiency of the system of futures market speculation is that it allows society to reap gains from specialization in 2 different types of activity, risk and production. Now, how does speculation in commodities market stabilizes the market? We can use the same example of wheat here to see the same effect that we discerned in the context of price gouging. You can say that speculation, commodity speculation, performs 2 fundamental functions. It stabilizes prices, or you can say it reduces price fluctuations. I'll explain why is that and how that works. And the second advantage is that it better or more evenly distributes consumption over time. So people are far less likely, if you have a speculation going on, would be far less likely to consume everything, like 90% of a certain good right now, and then spread 10% of the remaining stock, remaining 10% of the stock over the next 11 months. Speculation helps spread the existing stock of goods more evenly over time. I'll explain why both of these forth. So it stabilizes prices. And more evenly distributes consumption. So imagine now that we're talking about wheat. That's a handy example because it's a scarce good. We have a harvest, and then for 12 months, if we assume that the wheat production in the southern hemisphere is negligible, it is not. Australia is a very big producer, in Argentina, but let's say that that's not the case. We don't have new supply on the market for a year. So we have to figure out how best to use the existing stock of wheat for the next 12 months. And we're going to assume away that the pre-existing reserves that we have in order to simplify the analysis. So what's going to happen if we assume for a moment that there is no speculation, that all purchases of wheat are for the purpose of consumption? What's going to happen if the demand for wheat increases? Demand for wheat increases, what happens to the prices, to the spot prices? They go up. Okay? There are no speculators, the prices will be going up significantly to the degree that demand increases. For whatever reason, people tastes, preferences changed, people want to consume much more bread than chocolate cakes or other products that require a large quantity of wheat, the prices will be increasing significantly. So what happens if you have commodity speculators in wheat who stockpile a certain quantity of wheat in order to sell it later when the price is higher? What do they do when the spot price goes up? They sell, of course. Not because they want to stabilize prices, but because they want to earn money. They don't care about you and me and our feelings and our chocolate cakes. What happens to the price when they start selling more and more? Supply and demand. Can you tell me what happens to the supply and demand curves? Price will go down. Why? What is the most? More supply, yeah. This is shift of the supply curve. So the price will go down. So then the presence of speculators in the futures market here reduces the price volatility because they already withheld a certain part of the supply of wheat. Once the price starts increasing, they jump into the market and start selling their reserves, which reduces price. So it reduces it stabilizes the prices over time. So what's going to happen if the opposite occurs? If the demand decreases? Demand decreases, price decreases. People would want to buy to consume more. What they do? They say, oh, no. Keep your hands off this. I need this. Now prices are cheap. I'm buying now. By buying, what I do to the supply curve. Yeah, supply curve shifts to the left. This is supply curve for consumer. For wheat is a consumer good. You know, the speculators are buying not to make chocolate cakes immediately or to make bread or to make anything. They buy for speculative purposes to resell at a later date. So the supply curve, this is supply curve for wheat is a consumer good, shifts to the left, which means that the price increases. Against the counter effect, it's a stabilizing force. When the price goes down, the operation of the speculative market increases price. When the price is going up, speculators bring it down. So they eventually average out or even out price fluctuations over time. So then you will have a relatively stable price of wheat, or a price that would fluctuate within relatively narrow bounds, not widely jumping up and down. Why is that good? Is it good? To the degree that people like predictability and stability, that's a positive market good. And people like stability very much. How do we know that? There are many tests of that. One of them is, what do you think why wages are relatively stable? Even if you don't have trade unions. Wage contracts are relatively like a long-term contracts. Something that we discussed already. The wage rates are determined by productivity, how much I contribute to the financial bottom line of the firm. They change from day to day. It's difficult to measure it. And yet, most employers accept to pay wages which are determined on a long-term basis. Walmart stores sell stuff at stable prices. They could have earned, the demand fluctuates from day to day. Okay, you know that. So they could have earned, probably they are losing money by not changing prices when the demand increases. Why would they lose money? Why would they be losing money that way? Because it costs them more to be replacing prices every day. Okay, so you see, predictability is a positive economic good. So workers like to have predictable wages. Walmart refuses to change prices because it costs them more, but even if it didn't, people like stable prices. It creates goodwill upon the customers. So to that extent, the speculation in the futures markets performs a useful social role. So stabilizes prices over time, reduces fluctuations, more evenly distributes consumption. So imagine that we have a very, very good wheat harvest. That means the present supply of wheat would be very high, the price would be very low. People would tend to overconsume right now. And after a while, because the price is low, after a while, the price will start going up and up. So then you will typically have a pattern without speculation, something like this. This is the price in July, in August. This would be next June. The price would probably more than double or whatever. Why? Because people would overconsume here, and here there would be stretched thin. There would be maybe 10% of the supply to see us through the last 3 or 4 months. And the price will have to go up to rational consumption. There wouldn't be enough wheat. What speculators do? Spot price lower than futures price, they buy wheat. It's not by buying wheat. What they do? Increase price, reduce supply, increase price. When price goes up, the first law of demand says what? Price going up, quantity demanded goes down. So the first consequence of commodity market speculation is to reduce consumption in the periods of abundance. When prices are low, speculation reduces current consumption by withdrawing parts of the market supply for speculative purposes. By increasing prices, in accordance with the first law of demand, it reduces consumption. That's exactly what we want, to preserve more for later, to avoid situation in which we would have 10% of the total available stock for the last 30% of the time, last 4 months, whatever. We want it more evenly spread, that we have some certain constant level of consumption, or relatively even level of consumption throughout the year, to spread as evenly as possible the available stock of goods over the entire period. So speculation facilitates that. First, by leading to a reduced rate of consumption in the period of abundance. And then what happens after 6 months or 7 months? When the price starts going up, that's goody. Now we sell our reserves. We enter the market and sell reserves. What happens then? You can guess. If the price goes back down, consumption increases. So you see the opposite effect, the flip side of the coin is that speculation allows people to consume more in the periods of scarcity. The first part is that it reduces consumption in the period of abundance by increasing prices. And the second aspect, or the second flip side of the same coin, is that by providing the new supply to the market in the situation of scarcity, it reduces prices and allows for a greater consumption rate in that situation. So it evens out not only the prices over time, but also the consumption rate over time. It facilitates a relatively even consumption throughout the year. And so this is how to allocate scarce resources over time. This is how speculation helps you do exactly that. Okay, any questions? Anything? 2 or 3 minutes. Don't hesitate if you have any technical question. These two last things were maybe crucial. So these definitions, spot prices and future prices, and the economic assets of the futures contract, and how it solves those problems. These are, if you learn these 3 or 4 things, I would be happy. I would be very happy. Does that mean everything is clear, by and large? Okay. Okay then, have a nice day. I'll see you all next time. I sent you a notification just to repeat, if you didn't read it. The last class of the semester will be overview for the final exam.
So next Friday?
Next Friday.